America has been a beacon of scientific discovery and achievement, but no more if our president has his way, and it seems he may be having. From medicine to aerospace, some of the great thinkers in modern history have called the United States their home and pushed boundaries while residing within its borders. But who needs all that? Donald J. Duck's administration, or Coward the Duck as I like to call him, has been mass firing federal government scientists, cutting money to scientific research, and just in general, making clear that they hate science itself, since it's harder to make stuff up when it comes to science. So hey, may as well eradicate it. The Trump administration has thrown out hundreds of national institutes of health, NIH research projects, fired thousands of the agency's scientists, and looks intent on further dismantling the agency. Research funding for universities is also being stripped. So is climate science. Science is under attack in the United States, basically everywhere you look. And how are the scientists feeling about this? Well, they're anxious. They're not known for their bravado. They're scientists. They're not MMA fighters, and they're anxious under these attacks, many of them leaving or considering leaving the good old US of A. Nearly 2,000 members of the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine signed a letter in March warning of the administration's threat to science. A poll from the international science journal Nature in late March found that 75% of American scientists are considering leaving the US. European countries are planning on increasing their science funding. And countries like France, Belgium, and the Netherlands have launched programs to lure American scientists. Jan Dankert, rector of the Vrije Universiteit Brussels in Belgium, says I don't know how the word Belgium is the one I stumbled on there, says his university has launched its own program to attract American scientists. Dankert tells Rolling Stone, our university is establishing a dedicated contact point for researchers who want to continue their work in Brussels. US universities and their scholars are victims of political and ideological reference by the Trump administration. They're seeing millions of dollars, ideological interference by the Trump administration, they're seeing millions of dollars in research funding being abruptly cut for ideological reasons. In France, Marseille University has received nearly 300 applications from Americans for its Safe Place for Science program. During World War II, a lot of scientists, of course, fled Europe to come here to the US, and now it's the opposite. As we are giving World War II vibes, Europe World War II vibes, how fun that's gotta be for nobody. Quote, I never thought I would live in a country where I would see scientists basically seeking asylum, says Jennifer Jones, director of the Center for Science and Democracy at the Massachusetts-based Union of Concerned Scientists. Some are seeking asylum because their work is no longer valued or funded. Some just don't see the future of their career here. Adam Siepel, a computational biologist at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory in New York, says he's been seriously considering moving to Europe or Canada. He says the atmosphere in America is very spooky right now and almost reminiscent of Nazi Germany or the Cultural Revolution in China. He says a lot of scientists are worried about the future. And it's not just scientists, of course. Former Yale professor of philosophy, Jason Stanley, an expert on authoritarianism and author of How Fascism Works, is now at the University of Toronto. The author of How Fascism Works has left the country due to fear of US becoming a fascist dictatorship. Trump claims to be reducing government spending, but when it comes to science funding, that's pretty irrational considering investing in science very often generates more money than it costs. Adam Siepel, computational biologist, says every dollar spent on NIH research results in about $2.50 worth of economic growth. I think around 90% of FDA-approved new drugs started out with NIH support. And now Trump is also defunding women's health research as well, or wanting to do so. The Women's Health Initiative, the US's largest health study of women, because who cares? It's just more than half of our country. The purpose of it is to research cancer, heart disease, and osteoporosis in postmenopausal women, a group historically neglected by disease prevention researchers. The initiative is possibly best known for its study of the potential risks of estrogen plus progestin hormone therapy to treat the symptoms of menopause. The Women's Health Initiative estimates that research prevented 126,000 cases of breast cancer and 76,000 cases of heart disease over the following decade, which in turn saved more than $35 billion in direct medical costs. In a bit of good news, at least for now, in an update, the Department of Health and Human Services is currently reversing its decision to gut this funding. But the initiative creates very important results every day. For example, just last year, it released a study finding that calcium, in addition to vitamin D supplements together, do not stop bone fractures in menopausal women, which was important information that we did not know before this research. But this week, the Women's Health Initiative announced that the Trump administration is cutting its funding. Its regional research centers will close in September. The main research center's future also remains uncertain after January of next year. The funding in totality amounts to a mere $10 million annually. And 10 million is, by the way, less than half of what the US taxpayers have reportedly spent for Trump's golf trips in these first 3 months of his term. The press release sent out Tuesday titled, "On Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science." That's released by his own White House. Lists an assortment of actions Trump has taken that the White House claims are actually good for the environment, despite every major conservation group saying the opposite. By pausing restrictive emissions rules for coal plants, Trump has accelerated responsible energy and infrastructure, the White House press release says. By clamping down on wind energy, Trump is, quote, recognizing wind turbines' detrimental environmental impact, particularly on wildlife, which often outweighs their benefits. Total bull. The release says, pushing the myth that wind turbines have any significant impact on bird populations. They continue, President Trump is protecting public lands, the release states, before explaining he's, quote, prioritized access to federal lands for energy development, something conservationists have said is an environmental nightmare. And of course, even back on Trump's first day back in the White House, he signed so many executive orders that just absolutely reversed the government's current climate policy, which no longer is our policy, including taking us out for the second time of the Paris Climate Accords, declaring an energy emergency, which his solution somehow is to speed up fossil fuel permitting, nuclear power and mining, stopping offshore wind development because he really hates using natural resources that don't harm the planet, and opening Alaska's Tongass National Forest, the largest federal protected forest to increased
Are
logging.
you pronouncing that right, man?
I think so. I think it's
Tongass. Okay.
Tongass National Forest.
I know I'm not the only one that heard that.
No, it's Tongass. There's only one way to pronounce it, and that's Tongass, just for the record. And the press release describing the expanding of logging on public lands. They're calling that safeguarding millions of acres of forest land, improving wildlife habitats, and supporting rural economies at the same time. And by the way, all of these changes, all of these cuts, all of these things affecting science, of course, it came out that spending is actually, it seems to be higher than before Doge did all of this. So if they're not actually saving anything, it's just quite clear they're trying to take away a lot of the good that this country does, a lot of the research we put towards it, so that it can just be Trump's priorities and the money shifting to places that benefit him and his buddies in what has become an oligarchy.
Hey, don't use that word.
I know that word is a bad word to use, so people don't get it, but it means we don't like kings.
Right.
Okay. Wow, Nick, Michael.
Well, I mean, there was a lot there, as you know. But first of all, on a side note, Thor Benson, did he do stuff here? Anybody know? I feel like I met him here doing thing. All right, but I mean it. The guy who writes for Rolling Stone. But yeah, I mean, this is just again, this is a drop in the bucket, but it just shows you that there's a brain drain in this country, and it doesn't surprise you when you see that their ascent, the people that are doing it, their ascent was facilitated by the people who don't value education, who don't value research, who doubted vaccines, who who get their news from places where it's not edited and not curated properly. So if that's what got you there, he keeps playing to them, and he's doing a good job because it got him back. So I'm not surprised by this. I do know though that there's some things that the president does that can be reversed pretty quickly, right? There's some things that are going to last the rest of our lives. Like I think the whole idea of fake news is not going to go away, and that's his worst and most lasting legacy. But I think this isn't going to take a minute either to get back, because you're going to have these people leaving this country for the University of Toronto or other countries, become ensconced in those places, realize that they don't have people breathing down their backs, and they're gonna say, this is the right way to do science. So it's a loss that is enduring, which I think we can be outraged that it's happening at all, and obviously we are, but at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to get these people back, and this is sort of the American exceptionalism that people talk about. This is that in reverse. They talk about America first. This will put America in last, and they don't seem to care as long as they say America first, and the people that are voting for them hear those two words together. It doesn't matter, even if it's not true, and that's what's confounding really about the people that vote for Donald Trump and the people who he supports.
I call fake news on whatever you just said, but Waz?
See?
I think this is a tragedy in so many ways, and the problem with this is that unlike the stuff with the tariffs, where Wall Street and pretty much all these different segments of capital and the Chinese government, like they're so organized that they can spank Donald Trump in his stupidity, right? Like the bond markets can go haywire and he's spooked into being scared straight, or the stock market plunges and he's like, holy moly, I gotta get some religion about the incredibly stupid thing that I'm doing. The problem with what he's doing here in terms of funding for scientific research, deregulating the hell out of pretty much every single industry. The only way people are gonna have a reaction, because it's not so immediate, is when something goes horribly wrong. And we're like, well, we were working on this thing, but then Trump pulled the funding. And so that's why we couldn't do X, Y, and Z. It's people aren't gonna know to be up in arms, as a general public until something goes horrible. And that's what's, most sad about this whole thing to me, because this is so obviously the opposite direction that we should be going to as a country in terms of the kinds of people we want to stay here and work here and build us up and make us better going forward. We're doing the opposite. And, I just think people are too busy going about their normal lives to make us think about it.
Yeah, it's quite literally death by 1,000 cuts. And that's where we are. We just have so many of the things that made America this great bastion of hope, the shining city on the hill that former Republican hero, I guess, former Ronald Reagan spoke about kind of beautifully. And we are now this place that just wants to get rid of anything that we do to try to be stewards of the planet, try to be stewards of the world, and just line the pockets of people at the very top and let the actual effects of that be damned.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.